So if I very quickly, if I go over, I'm going to create a P&L. So if I go revenue, cost of sales, gross profit. And I'm going to put some months across the top of our little P&L, Feb, March, Q1. And I would need to put some formulae in here if I was doing this in Excel, right? So I'm going to say equals revenue minus some costs. I'm going to fill that across. And then I'm going to go for the quarter, I'm going to go sum, and I fill that across. And these are all fairly fundamental Excel functions, so I think we're all pretty used to that now. And then I'm going to populate the data. I'm just going to say 500, 600, 700, and 250, 300, 350. Okay, so I've got some information. The thing is, like I said before, we've got this one tab. Now, if I highlight in colors the structure of these tabs, what we've really got is some information about the report around the outside. We've got some formulae that we just created that Excel is going to take care of. And if I highlight the bits in blue in the middle, that's really the only bit out of that report that the blue stuff is that I'm actually working on. That's my forecast figures, or the bits that I'm putting in. And then we've probably got more going on than just these. So we'll use region as our example, and I'll make it USA. So that's going to be green as well. So what we've got is those dimensions that I talked about, or just the things in our company. So we've got region, we've got a count down the page, and month across the top. And if I count those cells up, I've got 21 cells, of which only 6 of the 21 are actual data that I need to play with on a month-to-month basis. Okay, so it's going to mean if I maintain these sheets, 72% of what I'm playing with is stuff I have to maintain, but I don't really change. Okay, unless there's a structural change in the business, I'm not really working with anything but blue cells, and that's great. So we have USA, and then let's say we've got the Japan division and the China division. And typically under old school Excel rules, I'm going to shortcut my way to success, and I'll copy the old tab. And I copy it, and then the last but not least is the important bit, and that's the console that's going to bring it all together. And I'll paste my bit as a pro forma, but what I have to do, and remember how I said I've now got to go across the tabs, I have to go equals, I click on every tab and go that plus the Chinese one gives me the result. So I've got to literally manage now every cell in the model. I've got to look after it. Otherwise, my data is wrong. If I miss a cell, if I make that error, the information is not going to be correct. Okay? And then what's going to happen if I have to add a new division? Say we have a career division. You guessed it. I have to do it again. So I've got to go and grab a formula, paste it into career, but I've got to go back to my console and I have to edit my console. And this is the bit that takes time, and it's literally a full-time occupation for people on your staff, and they have to spread that around. Okay, so all good and well. You're familiar with that, and I'm sure you've seen it 100,000 times before. If we do it a bit differently though, so now I'm going to create a new tab, only this time I'm not going to use Excel, I'm going to use PowerExcel. And PowerExcel in this case is an add-in, so I go new, and anyone that's familiar with a pivot table with Excel, your teams are familiar with it, you'll see the interface is very similar. I'm going to pick the information that I want, and you can see I've got the dimensions here already. I've got region, month, account, and so I can literally create a slice here, send it in, and it's done all the heavy lifting for me. Okay, so I've got my revenue, my cost of sales, and my GP. And the thing is, those dimensions that we're talking about are filters, right? So on any report, it's really a filter. So if I double click that now, I can pick Japan's numbers, and I pick Japan, I press calculate, and the data comes back. If I want any of the other regions, say China's number, no data in China, so we'll go to Japan. There we go. Okay, so the information is already in the system. And now you're going to ask the question, what happens when the CEO walks in, and we'll notice in there we don't have Korea, okay? There's no Korea. CEO walks in and says, Eric, I need Korea across the board. We're going to have a new division. I just come in, I go, yep, pick my region, gives me all the options, and I just come into the bit that I want, Asia in this case. I right click, create a new, and I put Korea. Press the green tick, go. I'm going to clear my cache, which means it resets my connection. And just like that, I now have Korea in the mix, okay? Which means it's going to add up in the model. I don't have to do anything differently, but that nest of spreadsheets that I had before, I might have 50 spreadsheets in the organization, all 50 of them now have Korea, and I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do any formula changes. I have to change the numbers. It's just there, okay? So that is a massive time saver, and it's dead simple, but that's probably not all that we want to look at. So what if I want to look at a different sort of report where I don't want the accounts necessarily. I want to look at it in tandem with my regions. So I can change how those dimensions in inverted commas are structured. So I can say Japan, China, total Asia, and I'll bring Korea into the mix. And I want my total on top, actually. I'll move it up there. And I'll redo it. I've now created in seconds a P&L summary report by region. So for me to do that with Excel, if I have to go back, it's far more complicated for me to redo that spreadsheet. You know, I could send it to someone and they'll come back to me in a couple of hours maybe to redo it. But I've now got a report any which way I want to look at it. Okay, so the other feature here is you can see there's some green calculations as a GP percent. That's a formula that's inside of the PowerExcel engine. So it's calculating that GP percent for me, but it's also doing it if we put some more data in and we don't do a 50% margin there, let's 125, you'll see that it's doing it at different levels. So for China, it's 58%, Japan's 70, but that weighted average GP is 67. So it does it at every level straight away. And as you start to think about that with Excel, it's far more complicated to do, especially when we get more complex sort of product groups and business units, and trying to do all that at once is a lot more complicated.